Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Working towards the weekend. Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Chris Blair coming up in 15 minutes. Talk to the voice of the Tigers. A little bit of hoops, a little bit of baseball with Chris. But baseball right now as we start hour number 2. You know, I told you I was there at Teague Moore last night. Really enjoyed the environment there. I'm just a nerd for college baseball. That's why I can't wait to get to Starkville later on this spring and see that revamped stadium for the first time with my eyes. And I hadn't been to Teague Moore in 13 years, and they've certainly classed up the place since I was last there. And look, the game was very, very bad from an LSU perspective, and I didn't enjoy that at all. And they've got some issues, but I did enjoy the setting last night. And I was curious when the game ended. We went down on the field and talked to Jay Johnson after he met with his team. And I was curious what his demeanor would be because baseball coaches have to deal with losses. I always thought that Pulmonary, it always struck me how much he hated losses, how different his demeanor was after a loss with us than it was after a win. But the thing is, like football coaches, if you're really good, you don't lose very much. Like, what does Kirby Smart lose twice a year, once a year, maybe none times in a year? None times. It's not very often. Baseball coaches, like you have a remarkably good season, you're losing 12 times. If you're the number 2 national seed, you lose 12 times. You're a top 8 if you lose 15 times. And so they're programmed to lose some games, but I was curious when they play so poorly and you throw it around the yard and your offense is still anemic and this has been going on for a week, like what would Jay's demeanor be like? Because I haven't been in a post-game press conference with him since Sunday? Yeah, since Sunday. And so he came to us, and I was at the end of the press conference. It was a gathering. It was on the field, not necessarily in a room, but I was like, he seems really okay, which to me did not indicate complacence. It indicated how he really feels about this team. Let's get to some of the sound from Jay Johnson. He talked about having confidence in the starters coming up this weekend and in what he will now use as his bullpen. I mentioned this at the top of the show, but this is what led me to that discussion is because Jay said this last night after the game.
What I do like is I like the guys that are going to pitch the next 3 games. I know the 4 guys I'm going to go to now at this point in time. A little bit of an old skip, style of you have 8. Doesn't mean we don't only have 7 or 8, but I know where we're headed, and I feel really good about that piece of it.
I would tend to agree with that to an extent. I talked about it at the top of the show, but Kason Evans, Cooper Moore, and William Schmidt have pitched to a 2.91 ERA with 73 strikeouts and 13 walks. That's representative of your team, and he should feel pretty good about that. The other piece of that is he said, I know what 4 guys I'm going to go to. Keep in mind, LSU threw 10 pitchers at McNeese, 8 pitchers at Northeastern, and 8 pitchers at ULL. He's saying right now, in a weekend, which is really representative of what your team's going to be moving forward now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you got to go to your top relievers. And very clearly, Gavin Guidry and Devin Sheeran are those top 2 guys. Devin Sheeran has thrown 6 1/3 innings. He's got 13 strikeouts and 2 walks. He hasn't given up a hit yet. Gavin Guidry's strikeout to walk ratio, even after last night, is 18-1. His batting average against is 128. Those 2 guys are absolutely in the 4, and I use air quotes that Jay Johnson said he would go to. Who are the others in this group of confidence that he has? Can I toss Jaden Newt's name into the hat? Jaden Newt came in when Maverick Rizzi ran out of gas on Sunday of last week, and he got the last out with a changeup. Then he came in last night. Yeah, you're losing 7-2. I got it. But he came in last night. He threw 11 straight strikes, threw a perfect 9th inning, got a strikeout. He's a veteran. He throws strikes. Like, I think he could be in that mix. I still think Maverick Rizzi is in that mix as well. You look at the good with Rizzi. It's 8 1/3 innings on the year, 12 strikeouts. That's very good. And only 2 hits allowed. So if you look at that, 8 1/3 innings, 12 strikeouts, 2 hits. That's what you want. However, he's spraying it a little bit. He's walked 7 and thrown 4 wild pitches. Like last night, he seemed to be going along okay, and then he threw a ball behind a left-handed hitter for a wild pitch and a run. That's what you can't have. So I'm a little concerned at the size of Rizzi's misses, but when he's in the strike zone, like he was in the next inning, he struck out the side last night. He's still 6'9". He still throws 97. His slider's still pretty good. I think he's in that mix too. That's 4. That's Sheeran. That's Guidry. That's Newt. That's Rizzi. I would also toss 2 more names in that mix that maybe you can draw your own conclusions, and I think we'll see this weekend. That's Ethan Plog, who you saw last night and did a pretty good job. Keep in mind that Plog early in this season has recorded 10 outs. 6 of them are via strikeout. He didn't walk anyone last night. Now, he has walked people previously. He has failed to throw strikes previously, but he was great in the fall and in the preseason. And I talked to a source in the program around Christmas, and the vibes were really good around Plog. I thought it was like, this guy's going to be really difficult matchup for even right-handers, but definitely left-handers. So I think I think that residue from the fall and the preseason is still there. And when you see an outing like last night that was pretty good, I think he's in the mix. And then Cooper Williams is lingering there. He was so good on opening day. Since opening day, where he went long and threw it great, he's allowed 6 runs on 6 hits in 2 2/3 innings. So that's not good. Now, only 3 of those runs are earned, but he just hasn't been as sharp as he's going to factor in. But this is the group I think you're shrinking it down to. There are other guys like Santiago Garcia that you'd love to see step forward. You've given Connor Benj some run. You've seen what Marcos Paz has, and he's still very, very young, obviously. Same with Zion Theophilus, very, very young. Same with Reagan Ricken, very, very young. And you'd like to see some of these guys step forward, but you're not going to see in big games LSU go to this big array of pitchers. He said there's like 4 guys we want to go to, and I think right now, like, that's the group I'm looking at. I'm looking at Sheeran and Guidry, and I think that's a really good place to start. I saw Joe Doyle, who does scouting. He put a video up of Devin Sheeran from last weekend and said, this may be the best reliever in the draft class. Like, that's not an LSU fan saying that. That's not an LSU beat reporter who could be a homer saying that. That's a guy who doesn't even care about LSU and watches all the college games, and he's saying Sheeran could be that good. You may have your Chase Shores type guy. You may have your late inning, flame-throwing, big physical right-hander that's good for 2 innings at the end of games. Herring didn't fit the physical part of that, but the role he played, you may have that in Sheeran, and I feel pretty good giving the ball to Gavin Guidry late in a game. So I think what Jay Johnson is saying there is what I said at the top of the show. If you were here an hour ago, you heard me say it. If you weren't and you're just jumping in your car now, the nuts and bolts of it is LSU played really poorly against McNeese, played really poorly against Northeastern, played really poorly against Louisiana Lafayette last night. But that team that played poorly in those 3 games is not necessarily a reflection of the team that's going to play SEC games, because you get to use your weekend rotation in those games. What they do is suggest that your depth pieces and your starting offense are not playing well enough. You're not pitching well enough from spots 4 through 9 on your staff, 4 through 11 on your staff. Your reserves are not playing good enough defense in some instances, and your offense is falling asleep. But when you think about the actual team and what this group is, Jay Johnson's telling you, I like the 3 guys that are going to start on the weekend, and I know who I'm going to go to. And I believe, and I'll say this again tomorrow when we're previewing this series with Sacramento State, who has not played well to this point. Jay Johnson's going to manage Friday, Saturday, Sunday like it's an SEC weekend. Now, if one of the games gets to be 13-1, which is possible, they got to hit to score 13 runs. But if one of the games gets to that point, he'll throw those guys back out there and see what happens. But he would do that in an SEC game too. You're not going to see any experimenting come Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. You're going to see the SEC group, the trusted players play. And they're going to get back on track and get ready to go to Nashville. And that starts with Evans, Moore, Schmidt. And then it goes to this group I'm telling you about in the bullpen. And you can take it from me, you can take it from Jay, or you can say, no, this team stinks, they can't win a midweek game. I'm not in charge of how you feel about that, but that's the reality as I see it. It's the reality as Jay's saying he sees it. I'm taking it at face value. And I'll tell you this, being there, and you can watch the video. All the guys, all those TV stations were there. You can check out the video online of the entire press conference, like 12, 13 minutes long. I did not see a coach that was dejected. I did not see a coach that was frustrated. I saw a coach that understood that some of these guys that he thought he was going to count on have not necessarily stepped up, but is looking back at the starting pitchers and the 4 guys he wants to use out of the pen and his acumen as an offensive coach, which we'll get to in 15 minutes, that it makes him feel okay about where they are at 11-3 at this point. He's going to tell you they played a lot of games. He's going to tell you that Northeastern's really good and ULL's really good and Kent State's really good. And that's subjective, and we'll see how the season plays out. I'm worried about LSU. And when I look at LSU and I look at what they are, some of the pieces we thought depth-wise that I thought would be better have not necessarily done that. But the top dudes, they've been okay. Got to keep it rolling. They'll start tomorrow against Sacramento State. More sound from Jay Johnson coming up in 15 minutes. Let's check in with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Fabry Chevrolet GMC. You know the Fabry family. They've been in business here in Baton Rouge for 35 years. 35 years. They're a pillar in this community when it comes to the auto dealers. You know when you do business with the Fabry family, you're going to get wonderful customer service. They take that very seriously. You know that you're going to get service after the sale. You know your buying experience is going to be fantastic. You can start that experience online at FabryChevrolet.com. They've got every car that is on the lot online. So a lot of folks, it's a world we live on the internet, like to browse first. If you want to get behind the wheel, make the short drive to St. Francisville. I was there on Saturday up in St. Francisville. It is a really quick drive here from Baton Rouge. If you're north of town in Baker, Scotlandville, Zachary, quick drive up there to Fabry Chevrolet, Highway 61 in St. Francisville. If you're over in Point Capee, you can make that trek over as well. East Feliciana, West Feliciana. They're here for everybody, and they're on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Get on by, get a great deal on a Chevy Tahoe, maybe a GMC Yukon. They'll help you out there at Fabry Chevrolet. Check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is always brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. It's time now to bring on the voice of the Tigers. That is, of course, Chris Blair joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, hon. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. I am doing quite well. I know you had a new broadcast partner over there on the Plains, Dr. Kent Lowe on the mic. How'd that go?
Yeah. Coach Brady, a little under the weather. Good news. He's doing well. He'll be back on Saturday. But, Kent was able to jump right in there. Of course, he's got plenty of experience over the years, so no stranger to a microphone. But, we had a good time. Unfortunately, the game after the maybe the final 3 minutes of that first half wasn't much. Again, it was a tough night for LSU basketball. But, Kent did a great job. Had a lot of fun, and always a thrill to be on there with a legend.
He is certainly that as far as LSU basketball goes. Just LSU shot it great. In the game at Auburn. I don't know why they started at 9 o'clock, but it was a great shooting performance. The turnovers were just a disaster, and that's not something that's been too big a bugaboo for them over the last few weeks.
Yeah, that's the uncanny part. I mean, it almost feels like, when there's a leak in the dam and you finally get that plugged up and there's another hole that pops out, and that's unfortunately kind of been the story for this team this year. I mean, you look at the last 2 games, I think 30 turnovers, so you're averaging 15 turnovers a game. And even when you shoot the ball as well as they did, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you have 14, 15, 16 turnovers, you're going to get less shots on goal, and you're also going to give the other team more opportunities. And sure enough, on Tuesday night, that's exactly what happened. I mean, Auburn shot the ball well, too, certainly got better in the second half, but, both teams had flow to them offensively, but, it's kind of like Coach McMahon told me last night on the show. It was, especially in the first half, it was basically when LSU had possession, they either scored or they turned it over.
Yeah, it was kind of like the baseball 3 true outcomes deal. Just not a lot of missed shots. They were getting buckets, or it was headed the other way. And unfortunately, a lot of those turnovers turned into easy buckets for Auburn. We have mentioned Jalen Reese a couple of times, and in a different context, whether you're LSU, Duke, Southeastern Louisiana, Gonzaga, whoever, like, you can't really know who's going to be on your team next year to year, with the way that college athletics works right now. But in the event that Jalen is back on LSU's team, he's a freshman on the team right now, like, his growth this year, I've been so impressed by. He turned it over too much in the game against Auburn, but he shot it way better than he did in November and December, and the distribution's been there every single game. We've mentioned him a couple of times, but just another note on the Tiger freshman who's been thrust into a role he probably didn't envision playing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you think about, we're getting ready for this Texas A&M rematch on Saturday, and, it's over 2 months since they first met and opened SEC play, and that was the game where basically Jalen was like, hey, man, it's your show now. And that was obviously the first game without DJ. And, again, I thought he played pretty well. Again, there were some glaring turnovers late in the game that kind of, I guess you could assume, led to the 75-72 win for A&M. But the early part of the game, he had done a tremendous job. And then you kind of watch him over the development, and as you said, really over the last 5 to 6 games, I think he's really come into his own. So, you can't forecast who's going to stay, who's going to go, all of that stuff every single year. But I think he has to feel good about his development in his freshman year and the opportunities, unfortunately, due to injury, that he was afforded. And so, I hope that means a lot to him. I certainly suspect that it does. And we're watching him grow and becoming what I think can be a very good point guard in this league. And as you said, that's a very different thought than maybe in November and December.
Last one on hoops. You've now seen everybody in the conference up close. We know how historically good the league was last year. March Madness around the corner. How do you feel about the SEC's prospects in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, looking at the standings, I mean, again, talking to people who certainly know a lot more than I do, they kind of think maybe 10 or 11 teams are going to get in. I think that 7 to 8 wins is kind of going to be the secret number. And obviously that's going to be impacted by teams across all different conferences. And, Bruce Pearl's already weighed in on Miami of Ohio. Yeah. Are they going to take somebody's spot if they don't win their conference tournament? So that would impact a 7 or 8 win SEC team possibly, unless you're Bruce Pearl. And then it doesn't. You're in no matter what if you're in the SEC. But I think what we've seen, early in the season, Texas A&M jumped out to that early start, I think winning their first 7 of 8 conference games. But now Florida's kind of taken over. And I'll be honest with you, having seen everybody with my own eyes and now watching the consistency or lack thereof of teams around the league, I think Florida is certainly poised to not only win the tournament in Nashville should they want to, but I think they got a really good shot of winning the whole thing and going back-to-back national champions. That's how good they are. I think they've kind of separated. I think there's one team that has separated themselves in the SEC, and that would be Florida. I think, Arkansas is super talented, but I don't think you can count on them in big-time games, and we've seen them struggle here over the last couple of ball games. But again, I think 10 or 11 teams in the SEC is going to get in. I think if you look at the statistics, not as powerful or as dominant as they were a year ago, but I could make a case that it's still the best conference in college basketball in 2026.
We've gotten a little bit further look at LSU's baseball team since we last spoke last weekend. Certainly really good as far as the pitching goes. Offense has slumped a little bit. Let's talk about that pitching, though. Well, what's been your impression with the Tigers, especially on the weekends?
I think overall, Hunt, when I look at this team, I think of it as one of these big puzzles. And the benefit is you've got these big pieces. You don't have 1,000 small pieces. You've got 100 big pieces. But yet I don't think all the pieces have been put together. I mean, the talent individually, as I've talked about, you've talked about, everybody's talked about, even prior to the start of the season, is there. Do I think that we misjudge the talent on this team? No. Do I think that they've yet to kind of put it together and create a synergy as an infield, as an outfield, certainly as a lineup? And to your question, the pitching staff? No. We talked, Buzzy and I did on Sunday last week about, it'd be easy to say Gavin Guidry started the season electric. He should be their Friday night starter. Okay, you can make an argument there. But do you know what everybody else's role is yet? And to me, it's nice to have a Gavin Guidry on the back end, especially when you're struggling to score runs, which LSU has of late. Now, he got the start last night. Kudos to the Raging Cajuns. They were able to get on to him early. But I just think there's so much unknown yet. And I know you hate losing games. I know it was a tough one last night. But the panic button that's a little too premature for me because I know what these guys can do. And I know what Jay Johnson can do. And so I think the pitching staff right now is kind of in a situation where what is my role and how do I go out and solidify that role by being consistent? And I just don't think there's been enough consistency overall. My argument would probably be based on the work that's been done at this point, I would probably take William Smith as the guy who I have seen consistently get better in his first 3 outings, and hopefully that's going to continue. And the rest of the guys, whether they're in a starting role, middle relief, early relief, or on the back end, find that consistency. I think the talent's there. And you think back to the 23 national championship. If you'd have told me, Hunt, the guys that would have to step up, pitch innings, and pitch well over that 2-week span in March and maybe even mid-April, I would have thought, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right order. But again, that's why you have Nate Yeske and Jay Johnson. They know a lot more than I do. And so right now it's my ultimate mantra. In Jay we trust. And we got a lot of baseball left.
Sure. I mean, to that point, and I just said this in my last segment, we interviewed Jay after the game last night on the field, and we've both been around Jay when he's a little bit cranky with something that's going on the field. And we've both been around him when things are going really well, too. And he was calm last night and really felt like everything was just fine. And I understand what goes on in the fan base when you're losing games to Northeastern, who no one's ever heard of, and ULL, who's down the street they don't like losing to. I get the sense he feels like things are on schedule. The win-loss record may not reflect it, but I think he thinks the team is. Do you think that confidence comes from what you're talking about with roles that we've seen over the years that were not defined in April that showed up in June?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, because I think Jay understands that as well as any coach I've ever been around. But secondly, I think that they don't bring people to LSU, whether it's a freshman, whether it's a transfer. They bring them there because they have a culture of winning wherever they came from, previous team or out of their high school. These are winners that are assembled on this team. And therefore, I think, as Jay said last night, hey, look, we got outplayed. There's no question. Outplayed, outcoached. They deserve the win. We got issues. We're going to work on them. But that's the bottom line from last night's game. Because I think Jay understands these guys yet maybe haven't seen what it takes to win every single game, although there's a bunch of them that are returning from last year's team. There's some new guys here. And I think Jay is confident enough that these guys have been winners for the last 10 or 12 years of their baseball lives. And maybe they needed a couple of punches to the chin to get that going again. And I think because he knows that's what his roster is full of, that's why he's as confident as he is.
We'll see you in the PMAC on Saturday, Chris. Thanks, man.
You got it.
He is Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, LSU, and Texas A&M on Saturday from the PMAC. Of course, Tigers host Sacramento State Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Box. You can catch him just about everywhere these days on the LSU Sports Radio Network and certainly over there on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. I'll take a time out. More sound from Jay Johnson yesterday that I thought was interesting. I was there in the outfield when he was talking. We'll talk about the routine that LSU's going to get into and some things about the offense as well. Let's do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, online at lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com. You need to be able to trust your roofer. I know that everybody wants to take bids on their roof and see who's got that lowest price, and I understand that. It's a big investment for a lot of people. Roofs can be expensive, depending on what you're looking for. But you need to be able to trust your roofer. Get that inspection from a roofer that you trust. Have the folks at Lifetime Roofing go inspect your roof. They're not going to be one of these companies that comes in and is just trying to sell as many whole roofs as they possibly can. They're a Baton Rouge-based company that cares about this community. And they'll go up, and if they just see that there needs to be a repair, they'll handle that for you. They can do that. It doesn't have to be a whole new roof every time. Maybe you just need your roof fortified for this storm season. They can do that for you. And maybe you need a new roof, and they can obviously do that for you. And when you get that new roof from Lifetime Roofing, you're going to get a lifetime warranty on the workmanship and the materials. And that's backed by Certainteed, one of the oldest and most trusted names in building materials. Looking for financing on that new roof that's got that lifetime warranty? 0% for 18 months. It's Lifetime Roofing. You can find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
I'll take most chances I can get to make fun of Live Golf. I just saw a highlight on my Instagram feed.
Okay.
There was Sergio Garcia was about to hit a putt, and they were showing the high view from the drone, and the drone just flew into a tree and got caught up. It just fell.
Damn, it just can't get no better, huh? It can't get no better.
I don't even know where they show these tournaments on TV or on YouTube. I have no idea where you would watch this, but if you were watching and you're trying to watch
somebody seen it.
He had to back off his putt because it made a bunch of noise in the branches.
It's like, bro, who? And drones making noise.
Top shelf telecast they've got there on Live Golf. Excellent work. That tour continues to do great things in the world of golf. Just growing the game, doing great stuff. Totally not a complete and utter joke. Not even close to a complete joke. Very serious, very real, very good tour. Not at all a complete and utter joke. All right, let me tell you about One Bath and Closets. They're not a complete and utter joke. One Bath and Closets is awesome. If you're looking for a renovation, a remodel at your home, One Bath and Closets can do that. It can be a full-scale bathroom renovation. One Bath and Closets can do the whole deal. They can handle your floors, change out the plumbing, meaning they can do a tub-to-shower conversion, put a shower in, take a shower out, put a tub in, take a tub out. All these are completely within the purview of the David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets. They've been at it for 30 years. They know what they're doing with that. If you've got one of these big 90s-style jacuzzi tubs that you want to get rid of, taking up a lot of space and you don't use it, get rid of it. Put in a shower in that space. Can transform your bathroom, add some value to your home, or just make the bathroom a more enjoyable spot for you. That's what David and his team are happy to do. If you're thinking, I'd love to do that, but I'm thinking money's a little tight here, well, financing options are available, 0% up to 18 months. That's the same as cash over 18 months if you qualify for it. So see the reviews, see pictures of their great work, and schedule that consultation with David at onebathandclosets.com. All right, Jay Johnson spoke with the media last night, and I've been hitting some of this sound throughout hour number 2. So let's get to some sound. He talked about getting into a routine starting this week with Sacramento State.
I'm ready to get into a routine now. We can practice tomorrow. I got it all laid out, ready to go. I wanted to win tonight. Whether we won or lost tonight, we need to get back together and, kind of my traditional practice format. I don't think I set the team up for success with this schedule, how I had it laid out. I do believe we have enough to be successful in it, but, I'm going to own that part of it, learn from it, adjust it in future years. But I do think we will gain value. So I'm glad that we're exposing some things, both baseball-wise that we need and will do better, and then some personnel things and getting clarity.
What he's talking about there is not necessarily just how many games that LSU has played. He has routinely now over the last 2 weeks talked about how much he thinks of the programs at Northeastern, at Louisiana Lafayette, and at Sacramento State. He also thinks that Kent State is going to win a ton of games as well. So he believes that the competition level has been very high. And that may be true, that these teams are better than their name looks. However, this is one of the most talented teams in the country in purple and gold, and walking as many batters as they are and making as many errors as they are, and the feeble at-bats that they've put together at times through prolonged stretches, that I'm not going to pin that on how good the other teams are. These are quite literally would be the worst teams in the SEC. So it's got to get better. But as I've been saying, the game against Kent State, the game against ULL, the Monday game against Northeastern, these games that they lost have not been on the weekend. So you're not taking on those teams with the same team you would play with on the weekend. We've made a point of that over the last 90 minutes, and I'm going to leave it there. But I understand what he's saying, and he has said that he scheduled them for RPI purposes, that he has intentionally loaded himself up with programs that generally win a lot of games, and you may see that not happen moving forward because he said we may not need it, and they may just lean on the SEC schedule to get those RPI points. He said he is glad that he got some things worked out baseball-wise, but I've spoken at length now over the last 90 minutes about how having those weekend starters is a big deal for LSU, and you're not using them in the midweek, but the offense is the thing that is your weekend offense that is not producing. I gave you these stats at the top of the show, and I'll revisit them before this Jay Johnson sound, but Cade Arambide 1 for his last 12 with 5 strikeouts. Seth Dardar is 1 for his last 16 with 4 strikeouts. Zach York is 2 for his last 22 with 7 strikeouts. And Tanner Reeves, who was in the 3-hole last night, is 2 for his last 16 with 6 strikeouts. This is a terrible stretch of offensive baseball. And Jay Johnson recognizes that, and he's going to get to work with these guys personally.
I'm really going to go hands-on on the hitting thing more than I have probably in my time at LSU, even though it's my baby, you know what I mean? But like next level to help some of these guys out, because I believe we have good players that can play better offensive baseball than they are. I spent more time on this pitching staff leading into the season than I have, because I wanted to try to get the pieces lined up. And, you know, we're 14 games in, and I feel like I know what we have there. You know, in 24, we had the tough stretch at SEC play, but, you know, since we've been here, 5-game offensive scuffle is probably as long as we've had, and we'll be okay. If the players bring the right attitude, we'll get it right.
I'm just going to default to believing him. I'm not going to suggest you have to do that. I think that it's reasonable to be frustrated with the last 5 games they've played offensively, but they've been good on offense every year he's been here. And it would be unreasonable to me for you to watch them play in Omaha last year and win their second national championship in 3 years, and then to speak confidently all fall about how good this team was going to be offensively, and then to watch them for 2 full weeks in the regular season and go, this team is so good offensively, so deep, and then take 5 games and go, you know what? This team stinks. They're not getting any better. Like, you hear that out loud? These guys can swing the bat. And they've done it at the collegiate level. None of these guys you're counting on with heavy at-bats are true freshmen. The only guy in your everyday lineup who has never really proven anything offensively in college baseball is Cade Arambidi. Like, that's it. York hit a ton at Grand Canyon. Caraway is a guy that was on an Omaha team last year and was a regional MVP. You know the returning LSU guys and Milam and Brown and Curiel and Stanfield. Like, I'm just not going to suggest that this team's not going to hit it all this year. I'm just not going to do it. And here is a piece to the puzzle that I'm going to kind of file away and see what happens this weekend. But I watched this with my own eyes. Last night, Derek Curiel smoked 2 base hits and got an infield hit. He also drew a walk. He was on base 4 times. Last night, Jake Brown smoked a base hit to right, lined a base hit into center, and hit a ball that went to the warning track the other way in a cavernous ballpark. That's 4 good at-bats. Stephen Milam had nothing to show for his night. But with a runner on first, he hit a 104-mile-an-hour ground ball right at the third baseman for a double play. That ball's hit really hard. And in the 9th inning, he turned and burned on a line shot missile to the first baseman who caught it. Now, as the season progresses, you're not going to get any kudos for hitting the ball hard and going 0 for 3 like Stephen Milam did. But some of your dudes had really good at-bats last night. And that's how this thing's got to start. Like, it was really nice when Cade Arambidi was hitting bombs and carrying some of the offense. It was really nice when Zach York got off to a great start. And you need those guys to elevate the ceiling of your team and get closer to the ceiling of your team. But LSU's best hitters are Curiel, Brown, and Milam. And I thought they did a good job last night. The offense as a whole didn't. I gave you the numbers. Brown and Curiel were 5 for 9, and everybody else was 2 for 23. But, oh, by the way, Trent Caraway hit a 2-run homer and to the opposite field hit a warning track fly ball. So he wasn't awful last night. You got to get the guys I mentioned at the top rolling. Arambidi, if you're going to play Dardar, if you're going to play Reeves, York, like those guys have got to get going as well. I think Mason Braun gets some at-bats. I think Daniel Harden last night was probably out over his skis. He struck out 3 times in a spot start in left field. You need to get Stanfield back. And they're going to hit. They just are. They got to clean up the defense, especially at 2 spots, and they got to be a little bit better as far as some of the depth guys in the staff. But as frustrating as the last week has been, and I'll leave the baseball talk right here, I still got a pretty good feeling about this team. I'll tell you that. It's hard to do in the moment when you've lost 3 games like that in a week. But I feel pretty good about this team, and I'm hopeful they play a really good weekend against Sacramento State. And then whatever happens against Vanderbilt, it's going to really dictate the mood of this fan base. You go to Nashville and win 2 out of 3, everybody go, okay, that's good. Go to Nashville and sweep, everybody go, well, who gives a rip? If you go to Nashville and lose 2 out of 3, if you don't hit, if you get swept, Okay, we'll change. We will change the conversation, but I'm not willing to do that until that happens. You're 9-0 in the weekend so far, and I think some of the guys in this lineup are going to have big years. They have not had a big week. They've had an awful week. It's got to change. Come back and close it out. Coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust cranked things up in 1910. I don't even know what was going on in 1910, but I know that most of what was going on in 1910 is not going on right now in 2026. First American Bank and Trust is 116 years, now grown to 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. You want to bank with someone you can trust? How about someone who's been in your region, in your area of the state for 116 years, that has grown to 25 locations, that has folks working in it and making decisions about your commercial loan, about your personal loan, that are right here in Southeast Louisiana? If you're in Lafourche Parish, they're there. You're in Terrebonne Parish, they're there. You're over in Hammond, they're there. You're right here, Dutchtown outside of Baton Rouge, they're there. Metairie, they're there. First American Bank and Trust. When you call, you're getting a person right here, not a call center in Chicago trying to scramble and figure out who you are. Bank with a local company that's got the resources of the big national banks because of those 25 locations. That's First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Big shout out to Sean Sagrera Farms. Started out as a labor of love, and now it's turned into just an incredible operation there at Sagrera Farms. If you're looking to change the way you buy beef, Sagrera Farms is your answer. Prime Angus beef grown right here just north of Baton Rouge. Some of the best beef in the country. He sends me videos and pictures all the time. The marbling on this beef is just remarkable. You've all had a great steak. You've all had a bad one. What if you could promise that you would never have a bad one? That's what Sean can do. Everything he's got on the farm is prime. He's not guessing. They ultrasound this cattle. This is genetics that he has put a ton of time and effort into to creating consistency and excellence when it comes to beef. So change the way you buy it. It can be a lot to buy half a cow, right? Maybe you don't have quite enough room for that. Well, go in with two buddies. Go in with two family members. Say, hey, let's buy half a cow from Sean, and let's split it up. Get some ribeyes, get some strips, get some flanks, get all those pounds of delicious prime ground beef. Let's split it up amongst our freezers. Do that. It's been a game changer for the Palmer family, absolutely. So just awesome to know, well, we don't have anything tonight. Let's get the ground beef out. We've got that, and we'll get it out of the freezer, and it's awesome. Alyssa just loves the burgers. And how about this? If you don't like it, you don't pay for it. That's Sean's promise to you. If you don't like the product, you don't pay for it. There's no risk. And it's excellent, excellent beef. Give Sean a call, 225-719-1723. Again, that's 225-719-1723. That's Sean's cell phone. Call him, say, hey, looking for some beef. Say, hey, come on out to Ethel. We'll get you taken care of. And he will, and it'll be awesome. Sagrera Farms, they bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. We've got a wild story in Take It or Leave It today. We just got to get right into it. Let's go.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
All right, so before we get into that necessarily, we got one before that.
All
so
right.
the Boston Celtics All-Star Jason Tatum will make his season debut.
Okay.
Should be on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks, less than 10 months after having surgery for a ruptured Achilles. So is modern medicine ridiculous now? Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. That's
take
crazy. I wish we had our auctioneer segment to talk about that. That's a remarkable turnaround for Tatum. I mean, you see those Achilles injuries are so bad because one, you can see it. Remember Durant blowing his Achilles?
And he looked
you
back,
could just see like a rubber band go. And we know how serious it is. And so for Tatum to come back that fast, that's remarkable for medicine, remarkable for him, and really good for the Celtics.
Ridiculous, less than 10 months. So all right, let's get down to business. So
Goodness
Cal State
gracious.
Bakerfield's athletic department they've been up in arms since August 29th when the head coach at the time, Rod Barnes, he received an anonymous email who alleged that Barnes' temporary assistant coach, Kevin Mays, was working as a pimp across 4 states. So the anonymous email, it read, "Fix it or the whole staff will fall." The tips are wrote in all caps. So the head coach at the time, he sent that to the HR, and they did their investigation and whatnot. So this is what has come back from an investigation.
Oh, my God.
All right, so and keep in mind, Mays played on this basketball team between 2014 and 2016. So he played
He's a Roadrunner alum for Bakersfield.
Yes. So the investigation came out. It's a hefty rap sheet of 11 criminal misdemeanors, including felonies such as pimping, of course. He was also charged with possession of firearms, high-capacity magazines, possession of methamphetamines, marijuana with intent to sell. Separate charges cited him for possession of more than 600 images of, can't say all that, but he did some crazy stuff.
Not good.
Yeah, a lot of people under the age of 18. So part-time coach or full-time pimp, take it or leave it.
Well, Cal State Bakersfield is 8-22, and I gotta think that maybe some of that is because what's our coach's name here?
Coach Mays.
Coach Mays is maybe
Kevin
not paying
Mays.
enough attention to the zone defense, maybe paying attention to some more penetration as opposed to dribble penetration.
Yeah, I don't know what he got going.
That's a bit of an issue for the Cal State Bakersfield coaching staff at this point. That is a wild story. My man is trying to coach the zone defense. He's also out here running a ring.
4 states. Keep in mind.
4 states.
But Hunt, this
so
is where
who
you get
sends
me.
the email?
Yes.
Like a competing pimp is like, hey, this guy's pimping in my territory. Get rid of him.
No, so this what happened. The person that sent the email, it was a woman.
It's an escort?
She caught him. She was basically like been spying on him. She had like sent videos and pictures of him, like a girl basically, and sent that to the head coach at the time and said basically, fix it or the whole staff will fall. So he tried to save himself.
I mean, that's a quick call. Hey, assistant coach out here. He's supposed to be recruiting. He's recruiting others. He's really good at recruiting. His 2 specialties are recruiting and penetration here on the basketball.
Literally.
Get somebody else.
No.
That's a ridiculous story.
No, it's ridiculous.
Cal State Bakersfield, just fire everybody. You're 8-22.
Oh yeah, he's gone.
Just get rid of everybody.
Yeah, Rod Barnes, he's definitely gone. They said
You thought what was going on at Louisville was the problem.
Oh. But Patino?
Yeah.
Hey, look, that's recruiting. He's just recruiting a little bit. Okay, look. Patino, that's recruiting. That's how you recruit.
Incredible.
Now, this right here, this is crazy. And the fact that this kid, I mean, I call him a kid, he's a grown man, but again, he was on the team 2014 and 2016. So they brought him
10
back.
years ago.
Yeah, damn. That's very true, hon. I feel real old now. That was about 10 years ago.
Every time I hear Cal State Bakersfield, I just think of Tom Hanks and Castaway going, Bakersfield!
Well, I guess my boy's going to be in the pen right now wishing he was Tom Hanks, Castaway. But so I guess there really is no other ticket to leave it with that. That's kind of just like it's its own. Yeah, that's
We're not
it.
going to be. There's no encore
Yeah,
performance.
I can't really say nothing else after
the
that.
assistant basketball coach pimp who's
4
got
states. 4
who's
states.
running a ring in 4 states. That's the best we can do here on this Thursday. I guess we'll take it. Again, shout out. It's about 24 hours ago right now. Shout out to the folks in the Bayou Ford chat and the folks that contacted me directly about that wreck on I-10 yesterday because it got some folks bad on I-10. A couple guys that were coming to the game last night were very, very late, and I just zipped. We're right here downtown. I zipped on 110 over to 190, and I got to Lafayette in an hour and 35 minutes, no problem at all. Taking a long way, but didn't have to work at all. So hopefully everybody's okay. It looked like an 18-wheeler pile up. I didn't really see any reports, but
always the 18-wheelers.
Good news that everybody made it to the ballpark, and it was a great night last night for ULL baseball. Not so much for the Tigers. They'll be back at it tomorrow, and we got a lot to talk about on tomorrow's show. We'll talk to Preston Guy about some LSU football, preview LSU Sacramento State on the Diamond. The Saints are inching closer and closer to free agency. We've got a report on LouisianaSports.net about a visitor that came in that has some LSU ties. Was recruited by LSU. It's Tristan Lee, Clemson offensive lineman. What are the Saints looking at there? So we'll talk some Saints tomorrow as well. Looking forward to a fun show. Unfortunately, this is a time where you'd be just full speed ahead with March Madness and all that goes into that, and we're not going to spend any time on that because it's just not all that relevant around these parts. But there's plenty to talk about, and we'll get to it all. Missed any of the show today, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. I talked about LSU, Louisiana Lafayette at the top of the show. Mentioned kind of some big picture stuff at 1:15. And then we heard from Jay Johnson via the sound from last night all throughout hour number 2. Thanks to Chris Blair for jumping aboard with us. Talk to Little Saints. Cam Jordan officially going to hit the market as well. So you can find all that on demand wherever you find your sound. Hunt on Saints, Hunt on LSU. Always a reminder to go check out LouisianaSports.net. Matt's going to drive you home next one after further review. We're back tomorrow for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show on the Capital City's leader in sports talk, 104.5 ESPN.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power. They are open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever day of the week it is, save Sunday. You can get on by Gotros Outdoor Power. 2 locations, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, also in Gonzales. Gotro family's been at it for 22 years. Shop with somebody local. You can go to the big box store and get the zero-turn mower, right? But shop with the local team because they're going to give you the customer service that you need. They've got local delivery drivers that are driving parts and equipment around all day, every day. If you need a trailer to get your zero turn to and from some maintenance work, they can do that for you. If you're buying one and you need it delivered to your house, they can do that as well. They got the largest hustler inventory in the state by far. The grass is about to start growing in this part of the world. Get that zero turn mower from the folks at Gotros Outdoor Power. Airline Highway in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. They're online at GoTrosOnline.com. GoTrosOnline.com.